Hey everybody! So you guys have been asking for this one for quite some time. How do we record heavy vocals? Well, you'll be glad to know that recording vocals is probably the easiest aspect of recording metal. There's no real big secret to getting a good vocal sound because it really comes down to the singer. Some are great, some aren't, and some are so bad it really doesn't matter how much auto-tune you throw on it, it's still terrible. Listen to modern pop music for verification of that statement. So when I go to record vocals, I take one of three approaches. If it's mainly singing, I will use a condenser mic. If there are screaming vocals, I will use an SM7B. You just can't go wrong with that. And if the singer absolutely can't work on the stand, I'll let him go handheld with a 7B because it's pretty hard to cup it, although people do try. And boy, do they ever get upset when you try to explain to them that it might not be the best approach to getting a huge vocal sound. You just don't know the sound I'm going for, man. Well, if you were going for small, flat, unintelligible, and just plain all-around shitty, mission accomplished. All right, more on that later, pun intended. So let's start with singing vocals. Once again, there's no big secret. Throw up the best mic you have into the best preamp you have and have the vocalist sing his or her heart out. Here's the great thing. We're recording metal, so you really don't need the $3,000 mic into the $4,000 preamp. Yes, great gear is awesome, but I started out with a Rode NT1 and an Alesis mixer, and I did just fine. Always bear in mind, you're not recording Celine Dion on a top-level record with a huge budget. You can get some stellar results for not a lot of money these days. A Lewitt LCT 440 Pure is stupidly amazing for $269 US, and I'll be reviewing one on the show in the next few weeks. My next choice from that would be the Roswell Delphos, which is $899 US, and I still do have my vintage U87, which was about $3,000. But honestly, it doesn't get much use these days because I've got the Delphos. When it comes to preamps, again, you don't have to break the bank. The Audient mic preamps are more than capable, and honestly, they remind me quite a bit of my much more expensive API 512Cs. And you can get an ID14 interface for $299 US, and that gets you a pair of those seriously awesome preamps. Let's put it this way, there is a reason I've got 8 channels of Audient preamps in my rack. Okay, so here's my advice when it comes to tracking. Work with the vocalist to get the best performance possible. Set up your mic so the stand is at the right height, because the vocalist must maintain good posture if he's going to sing with any power. If you want in your face and intimate, place the mic 1 to 2 inches from the singer's mouth and just be sure to use a pop filter. In my mind, remorseful vengeance surrounding me, annihilation of their kind. General rule of thumb, the closer the vocalist gets to the mic, the more bottom end in the sound. This is called proximity effect and is a feature of using cardioid mics, which is how you'll be using your mics about 90% of the time. The more you back the vocalist off, the less bottom end, and you'll also get more room sound. I'll show you guys how to use this effect creatively a little bit later in the video. When you're getting your levels, be sure to have the vocalist check the mic at the level they'll actually be performing at. In one of my early projects, I had the singer say check as I cranked the gain up on the preamp. Way up. All right, let's hit record. I was so shocked by the onslaught of volume, it knocked me right out of my freaking chair. The band, of course, thought it was hilarious. And a valuable lesson was learned. Always make sure to check the mic at performance volume, because singers just love to screw with you. And when you're setting your levels, be sure to leave some headroom. I try to keep the peaks at from -8 to -6, and it seems to work just fine. Bear in mind, if 1 or 2 peaks go into the reds while you're tracking, it's not the end of the world. Try to keep those under control, however, and don't be afraid to adjust the gain as tracking progresses. Singers tend to alter their output as they get more comfortable working with the mic. Also, make sure you're tracking at 24 bits as it lowers the noise floor significantly compared to 16-bit. Next, make a note that if you want your record to be stale and boring, be sure to use Auto-Tune to fix up just a couple parts, because you'd never actually use it to replace an entire performance, just those bits that the singer couldn't get right. And that is exactly why music sucks so badly these days, because we're all striving towards mediocrity. Second best is okay, we'll fix it. Meanwhile, the records that have stood the test of time push the musicians to the breaking point, because that's where the amazing performances happen. And there's a reason why people still listen to the Beatles doing Twist and Shout 54 years after it was recorded. Because the band pushed themselves right to the limit, and John Lennon's voice damn well nearly gave out. We don't hear the take after the one that was printed on the record because he had nothing left. Meanwhile, we got something awesome. So yes, push your vocalists. A great technique I use all the time is called comping, where I'll have the singer lay down 5 separate vocal takes and then assemble and edit from that. There's nothing artificial about it. I'm not changing the sound of the performance, just the order in which it happened. And if there's trouble spots, you can work with the singer until they get it right.
Pounding on your door. We know you like to run your mouth, but stop picking fights and pour some pints and give us a beer to drink.
Have some witches to take at home. We'll give you a reason to think why you're no longer number one.
There is a place I know.
And for all you guys out there about to say, well, that's no different than auto-tune. Yes, yes it is. Shut the hell up. Now go push your vocalist and try making some music for a change. And when it comes to tracking, here's a few things to bear in mind. A room full of bandmates staring at the singer is a great way to kill the vibe and make sure nothing productive happens. If they're not actually tracking anything that day, tell them to get lost. Girlfriends as well can be a real pain in the ass in these situations. I remember on the second project I ever did, we got the vocal mic set up, headphone mic set up, and we're just about to start tracking, and then the singer's girlfriend thought it would be a great idea to stand right in front of the glass to stare at him. This also happened to block my view. So I asked her, what the hell are you doing? She's like, well, I wanted to watch him sing. And I'm like, you're in my way. There's a couch, grab a seat. We've got work to do. Well, okay. This is why the girlfriend should stay home. If they're not in the band, they don't belong in the studio. It's just common sense, people. All right, so you got your main vocals. Well, what about backups and harmonies? Well, there's 2 things I love doing here. One is to keep an acoustic guitar on hand and help work out the harmonies. You can play the vocal melody and use the acoustic to figure out all sorts of cool harmonies. It is a great tool to have on hand. The second, and I try to use this as much as possible, is to put the mic further away from the singer during backups. And I mean several feet. I've done a project where we put the mic about 10 feet away from the backup singer, and once you note, the tracks blended effortlessly. Just bring the faders up and they'll drop right into place. A little bit of physical space goes a long way into creating depth.
And I feel I'm falling. All the pain never ends. And I feel I'm falling.
Okay, so I originally thought this was going to be a dead simple video and that I wouldn't have much to say. Set up the mic and hit record. Well, to steal one of George R.R. Martin's quotes, the story grew in the telling. As of right now, what was originally going to be a 5-minute video is now looking to be 3 parts. Be sure to watch part 2 of how to record heavy vocals next week when we take a look at how to record screaming vocals. Hit the subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss it. Until next time, Hasadiga Ibaway.